Hello everybody and welcome. This is Dave from Double Edge Racing, welcoming you to another edition of the Tools, Tips, Tricks, and Techniques videos. Today we are going to be covering shimming diffs. And so this is something that a lot of people think they're doing correctly or don't have any idea what they're doing. We're going to take care of that today so you end up with a properly shimmed diff. Now this is important because it will give you a more efficient and a quieter ride, as well as reduce the wear in your vehicle. So the first thing that you want to take and look at is actually not the diff, but the housing. The most important thing here is this. This is where your coupler is attached to your pinion for the ring and pinion gear. And you want to make sure that this is attached solidly, that this is firmly in place and Loctited, and that you do not have much of any movement here. A tiny bit of movement is okay, but if you can move it in and out a millimeter or so, that's actually too much movement. So you just want this to barely move at all so that it spins freely as opposed to being stuck in place. Next, what you want to do is take your diff and just drop it in place. By doing this, you're making sure that it fits, that things move, but more importantly, you're just going to take and hold the coupler in place so it can't move and try to move your ring gear. By doing this, you can see what the mesh is like. So at this point, because I can move it a little bit, I'm noticing this is actually quite a lot of movement for this mesh. So what I'm going to want to do is put the shims on this side to move the ring gear closer to my pinion, making the mesh tighter. Do all of this without any grease on it, and then put the grease on afterwards, because grease will hide a lot of this slop and will also hide a lot of the motion that you're looking for. You basically want to go with the tightest mesh that you can, where it still spins freely, doesn't bind up, and isn't grindy. Now, another quick little tip, it's fairly easy when you do your shimming if you have the shims on one side, because then you can just drop it in and it's going to work and be in place. The trouble comes when the shims are on both sides, and a lot of people have problems getting it to fit in. The key to that, and I'm just going to leave them here, but the key to that is stick them in while it's facing upwards, and then flip it over and drop the other side in. And by doing that without pressing and putting lots of pressure on, you're not going to bend the shims, which is the part that makes it the hardest. So simply setting it in there, and then if I had shims on this side, making sure they were flat, when I let this slip into place, it would still be just fine. Now, that's all well and good, but there is another tip that can make that even easier to deal with, and it's going to require just a little blade. In this section right here, this is where your shims are going to be touching. So if you have problems getting your shims in, all you want to do is just take a tiny little angle right out of the top of this, and that will help channel your shims down into place now. So by doing that tiny little cut, and hopefully this is going to be visible, that tiny little cut, just by putting this little angle here that's aiming in, that's going to help set your shims into place and make it a little bit easier for you to put this on. I don't tend to like bothering to do that, but if you have a particular set of nasty shims, then maybe that's important and you'll need to use it. So once we've got the shims in place, go ahead and stick the other side on as well, since you think you've got it set, and you want to test this. So again, I'm going to hold the coupler so it's not moving, and see that I now have a little bit of play, but not a whole lot. And that's what I'm looking for. So when I let go of this, it's going to spin nice and freely, and it's going to keep spinning for a little bit. Knowing that that's what I've got, now I'll go ahead and apply the grease to it. I'm just going to stick some grease right around this gear, spin it around a bit, and then we're done. So that's another set of tips for you to make it nice and easy to get the proper shimming and to make it easier to put the shims in place. Hope this helps. Have a good one.